explosive kind of light. We blew the dynamite. I annihilate beings like selenite. Crown chakra, third eye sight with tanzanite. Minnesota pipestone
with
chief
you
pastor.
Called Ascension Stones. Now, Ascension Stones is a project that Yuuga actually originally created on his own, and he started embarking upon, and then I later on helped him with developing and editing, and now we came together and we felt called to start bringing this crystal knowledge as well.
I'm working on golden radionics, a line of jewelry that is based off magnetic therapy, the science behind shungite, and just utilizing conductive materials to create a harmonious field for the body. And also working with structured water and the creation of Magna-Violet, my structured water system. Basically, the Chinese version, the ancient Chinese version of crystal healing.
Stone medicine refers to the use of crystals, gems, and stones in healing practices, particularly within the framework of classical Chinese medicine. It involves utilizing the physical, emotional, and spiritual properties of various stones to address health conditions.
Ooh, okay. Wow.
And they use crystals in a more therapeutic sense, beyond just wearing. But it said, I can look, I can hear, I can look, I can see, and I can hear. I become what's around that is clear. And that just made all the sense into
Telepathic communications like a satellite through my blue double terminated appetite, cleansing emotions and heart's devotion with the malachite, electrify, magnetize with the magnetite, off the chain, renew my brain, magnesite, energize the blood, protect the aura with the hematite, talk to angels with the phenakite and pedalite, petrified wood could take us to the highest heights, balance all chakras with the blue kyanite, explosive kind of light, we blew the dynamite. I annihilate beings like selenite. Crown chakra, third eye sight with tanzanite. Minnesota pipestone chief pastor pipe at peace. We communicate easy with azurite. Smoking THC crystals, get stoned on edibles. Collecting all types of gemstones and minerals. Green is all I need, aventurine, jade, and emerald. Shungite water is a...
Hello, grand day, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of our wonderful brand new series that we had just started last week, and that is Ascension Stones. This is your Crystal Gemstone podcast. I am one of your hosts, Marcus Christolight, and then we also have our co-host, Yuuga, as well. And we started out last week with just talking a little bit about the basics and fundamentals of what crystals are, how they work, how they function, what they look like on the multidimensional level, as in the mental, metaphysical, and the physical aspects that make up what crystal gemstones are as conscious beings. So you guys can always check out episode 1 on the YouTube channel, Sacred Light Broadcast Network, and it's actually already nicely in order for you guys. You just go to playlist, or you can click on podcast, and then click on Ascension Stones. So we'll be picking up from that first episode and beginning to move into our first focus topic of different ways of utilizing these ascension stones and how you can use specific crystals in your life in different places around your home, on your body, as well in other ways to help you explore the art of grounding. So we're going to be laying the groundwork, as we call it, in this episode. And we're going to be helping you guys understand what grounding is and ultimately what that looks like.
Ascension Stones, your Crystal Gemstone podcast. Coming up on this episode, Christolight and Yuuga lead and guide us through a journey of laying out the groundwork of grounding with crystals and what it looks like on the holistic, multidimensional being. Enjoy. Grab your snacks and tea, burn some sage.
So yep, we're gonna be talking about grounding this episode. And with that being said, how are you two today, brother man? Good to see you.
Doing pretty well. Glad to see you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, man. Is there anything that you feel called to share, or anything that you would like to express to the collective before we dive into this topic?
Yeah, definitely with the lunar energies that are going around and the shift in the Gemini season, I feel like this is a great time to really ground yourself, as Geminis are very airy. So this is actually pretty, even though it's the opposite of what's happening, we're taking and converging the grounding element to help guide through the next shift in season. So I think that's pretty interesting how it's working out. So be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought that up. And not just only are we feeling the energy of the Gemini new moon, but we're also feeling that energy of, for the first time in 3 decades, Saturn just went into Aries at 0 degrees.
Oh, really?
So we're feeling the end of 3 decade worths of karmic cycles coming back into the Aries beginning energy. Because like in astrology, typical Western astrology at least, Aries is the first sign that births the fire of creation, so to say, into the zodiacs. So when you think of that, Aries at its 0 degrees, so its original form of its birthing energy, is then being met with Saturn, who's like the governor of karma or the governor of time. And this really, really profound, big levels of closing out karmic chapters. And if you're not closing them out already, then you're going to be facing some pretty intense emotions and energies that are going to kind of push us into releasing those karmic energies. So all I got to say is make sure you guys are grounding yourself. And this is a perfect time for this episode, because you guys are going to learn what the metaphysics of grounding looks like, as well as different crystals you can use and different techniques and strategies with these crystals for grounding. So with that being said, we can go ahead and kick off with just talking about the basics of what grounding is and what it looks like with our aura, our energy field, and basically the multidimensional aspects of grounding. So I have this image, and this image here has the chakras, and it also has some other things going on as well. So I'm going to make this very simple, and then of course our brother Yuuga can add in as well. But I'm just going to make this very simple. I'm not going to try to make this complex or anything like that. But grounding, when it comes to the metaphysical or the energy side of ourself, grounding is basically your magnetism and your rooted connection energetically to the planetary grid of the Earth, which is the energy grid of the Earth. So we have this energy body that is basically like our blueprint, or it is kind of like the coding, the mapping system for our physicality on this Earth. So if that mapping or that coding system is out of alignment, if it's damaged, if it's overactive, or if it's ungrounded. And how do we ground? Well, we ground out of our root chakra, as well as the soles of our feet. And the key is having the root chakra and the soles of our feet clear and open as energy centers. So then that, you can call it white light, silver cord of light, however you like to describe it, but that higher consciousness of light that descends down into our different layers of being comes through that crown chakra. And it's pretty important to have all of your centers open so that that energy cord can go all the way through properly. But with the grounding aspect, the root chakra is kind of like that energy center that gives the gateway for the higher energy that's traveling down through you to be able to ground and anchor into our Earth planetary grid. So this is why, if we're holding on to pain, anger, resentment, fear, which all stores in the root chakra, that will cause blockages there. And when you're experiencing those type of things, you tend to feel like you're ungrounded. You feel scattered, anxious, scared. You feel like you don't have any safety, security, and connection to the abundance of Earth. And that's what grounding gives you. It gives you all of what I just named, but active in your life. The stability, the security, the inner peace, that inner tranquility of not needing to rush, feeling like you have to be somewhere else. You're not anxious, depressed, but you just feel solid. You feel like you can flow. You feel like you have a purpose with just being, and that you're connected to all of the abundance of Earth and what it has for you. So grounding is one of those things that it can really alter a lot for you in your life, especially if you're not grounded. And some symptoms that can take place if you're not grounded is you can become very vulnerable to outer influence. You can be very easily manipulated and swayed. You also could feel like you have lack mentality, struggling with finances, career, because the root chakra also helps with that. And also, along with that, you could feel like you do not belong here on the Earth at all because you're disassociated from your physical body. So when we ground into that, we can feel that we are here in this present moment, and we are divinely here in this present moment. So lastly with this, I'm just going to wrap this up, is what causes blockages from us grounding? Well, wearing synthetic shoes all the time, constantly covering the soles of our feet, especially if we're outside in nature, having a lot of density, traumas, and other things that could cause distortion, pain, and keep you from feeling secure. And then as we continue on, you guys are going to learn about different crystals and some methods with these crystals that you can use to help with your grounding. So is there anything that you would like to add as well when it comes to just the basics and the metaphysics of grounding?
Yeah. Unfortunately, grounding was a technique I kind of overlooked at the very beginning of my journey, and I heavily worked with the third eye, and that was a pretty big mistake on my part. And when you're first activating your chakras and becoming spiritually attuned to energy and just having a spiritual awakening in general, it's very, very important and critical to have grounding into your practice. And I say this because you become unattached to the earth. And the important thing that a lot of people tend to get confused about with Ascension is they think it's ascending up and leaving the lower realms. But I found that the more centered and grounded you are, not necessarily in a lower realm, but just grounded in yourself, that one, it helps prevent psychosis and spiritual psychosis, kundalini psychosis, but it also makes you a tether and a tie between the spiritual world and the physical world. And it makes you an anchor for the spiritual. And I think that is one of the most powerful forms of manifestation, and working with the self is making yourself become the portal and being able to anchor in that spiritual energy. I feel like that is the signs of a master, when they can pull the energy from above to below.
Yeah, I love that you just brought that up, because that's one of the biggest things that not only have I been embodying more, but also sharing with others in conversation. Like even this weekend at the Hope Festival that I went to here in Ohio. And when I went there was just so many good conversations about, balance. So many of us star seeds, there's so many of us light workers and sidekicks. And we're just like always up here in these upper realms.
Yeah.
And then what you'll notice is like a lot of them struggle with, anxiety, depression, whenever they're not in the middle of community, or they're not in the middle of exchanges with people, when they actually have to sit with themselves and live in their own life. And not just that, but I've seen a lot of folks that are just, kind of neglecting their physical well-being, neglecting doing the actual work, because that's the shadow work. The shadow
Yeah.
work is going into your root chakra, going into your sacral, going into your solar plexus, and really digging into, why am I feeling impulsive, or why am I feeling like I'm afraid to share my gifts, or I'm afraid of actual intimacy with the people that I'm connecting with in community. Not just that, but quite a majority of us on this planet are also dealing with, symptoms, as well as some unconscious things that could be tied to sexual trauma, childhood trauma, and those are things that are going to store in your lower chakras. So if we're not addressing those things, and we're just continuing on, and we're just, setting up events, going to events, and doing readings for people all the time, but we never actually sit with ourselves, lean into what we're feeling, dig into that emotion, and start to uncover it, to release it. That is where you begin to be able to ground more through your lower chakras. So then you don't feel like you're always anxious and scattered, and that you always are up here trying to think about what's next, or a different planet, or whatever else is going on in the universe. But when you get that grounding balance, you really get to be anchored into that. So then it's more like you're freely thinking and you're freely flowing, but it's from a place where you're not draining yourself. You're not giving off all this exhaustion of energy. And it kind of gives you a little bit more vitality throughout the day and throughout time, when you're more grounded as well. So yeah, I can't emphasize enough exactly what you said, which is, the more grounded you are, or the deeper your roots, as they say, then the further your branches get to spread, or the further you get to raise and blossom. And that's duality. We're in a dualistic plane. So the more you ground into your ancestral energy, the more that grounding will give you a foundation for you to be able to grow taller. It's like a tree. You think of a tree needs a great foundation, a trunk, and deep roots that anchor into the earth. So that human body is like the tree as well. And that's how we are able to consciously expand and be able to anchor and draw in more of our higher dimensions. So I think that should be good for metaphysics of grounding.
Yes.
So with that being said, where would you like to navigate first?
Let's talk about some grounding techniques that was popping up in my mind. One thing that really works for me with grounding, and I know this isn't for everyone, and I know it's not the healthiest thing, but I smoke pipe tobacco, and I also enjoy cannabis. And people ask me, why do you smoke both? And I feel like the tobacco pulls me down and grounds me into my body, but the cannabis helps me elevate my mind and help me get out of my head. And so that's been a really good switch, is going from tobacco to pipe, or cigarettes to pipe tobacco, and just getting in touch with the more natural side of the plant. Tobacco itself has been demonized, but another thing that I really enjoy for grounding would be qigong and breath work. Those practices are very great for grounding, as if you can do it in an earthing setting or a more grassy field, then that's even better. I actually have a little clip of me doing some qigong in Flagstaff, Arizona. And what I've learned through my practices with qigong and energy work and being in touch with my body is that when you feel that calm and you feel that center and you pull your focus and your attention towards your inner self and the present moment, a lot of things become very clear in that moment. And this may sound a little paradoxical, but I had a conversation a long time ago with a friend, and he said, our life is short and it's just a flicker of a moment in the grand scheme of things. And I said, it is. But right now, what is happening? Everything. And everything is always happening, and it's reimagining itself all the time. And so when you really ground yourself, you can see what's happening almost in a multi-dimensional sense. I've been able to not see into other dimensions, but I've seen how they mesh with our reality. And it's such a wonderful experience. It's borderline psychedelic in my experience, honestly. And other methods for grounding would be meditation. And my favorite form of meditation, along with qigong, would be just sitting and laying down and doing a full body crystal meditation, as I call it. That's where you just lay flat on your back and place corresponding crystals on each chakra, and you just sit and let go. I've passed out for about an hour or so on quite a few occasions doing this. And honestly, the full body crystal meditations are a cheat. They help you accelerate and harmonize within yourself. You feel much more centered, and the information that comes in is the downloads. The downloads that are coming in are so smooth in transition. It's not like you have to really think too hard about it. It's just putting you in a constant flow state. And if more people did some full body crystal meditations, I feel like we'd be getting along a lot better. But what do you have to add?
So that's a really good start. And before we even continue in that, I'm going to show you guys something real quick, just to give you just a little bit more perspective. And this is going to be about our meridian centers. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is to help show you guys in a visual way of how our energy streams, and just like a general outlook of how it works with the chakras and the root chakra. So our body has a lot, I have no clue how many, but it has a lot of meridian points. And you go back to traditional Chinese medicine and other cultures as well. They study these energy centers, or these meridians, and they understand that these meridians hold or store chi. So chi is kind of like a supernatural conscious energy, so to say. And when we open up these meridians and keep them open, it allows our chi, or conscious energy, to flow through us smoothly, fluidly, and build a more magnetic current, because we are electromagnetic beings. So with that being said, these 7 chakras that you guys see are big size meridians basically. And the root chakra down there at the bottom, being a meridian, it does exactly what I was explaining earlier. So we want to have that meridian open and balanced properly. So that meridian is able to have the chi or the life force flow out of it properly. And then it goes into the earth, grounds us, and then we also get current back up from the earth. And it's a continuous cycling. But if we have blockages, traumas, damage, and all these things, then these wheels and meridians are going to be off-centered, and this will disorientate the flow of our chi. So I just wanted to show that real quick because I thought about the meridians, and just to give people a visual look of just how energy flows through our being. And then you can also add to that the left side is our receiving or feminine hand. So we're receiving energy through this palm. Our right side, we're expelling, releasing, or our masculine side with the right palm. So some strategies for grounding. Well, yeah, you definitely have earthing as always, which is, bare feet on the ground or just laying on the ground, things of that nature. Grounding mats. So there's the grounding mats that you can get. And then you can also get like crystal mats, like amethyst mats. And then you can get shungite mats as well. I know this is something that Yuuga, you probably would really love to talk about, but orgonite technology.
Yes.
Different orgonite technologies are really awesome to use as well. Something I like doing too that doesn't require outside things is really just using the power of the mind and directing your energy with your mind. So what I mean by that is, you think of practices like Tai Chi, Qigong, that's kind of similar to what I'm about to describe. But for me, one of my practices is just sitting there concentrating with your mind, and you just go into the stillness or a meditative state, and you can stand, sit, however you feel. And then you're focusing on your breath. And then with your breath, you're drawing it in through the nose. But then what you do is you're going to swallow that breath, and then you're going to visualize that you're drawing it all the way down your channel. And then it goes out of the root chakra and out of the soles of your feet, and it anchors into the earth grid. And then you bring it up and exhale out of the mouth after doing that full breath. And then you just keep doing that. And you can say or visualize, I'm breathing in an anchor. Or you can say, my nervous system is relaxing with the breath as it goes down. And what happens is your mind is kind of, telling the rest of your being, like, this is what's going on. This is the story. Follow along with that. Because that's what our emotions and our body does with the mind. So that's just one strategy as well, which is using the power of the mind, the breath, and combining those together. I know there's really good strategies when it comes to like the body maps of our bodies. Let me see if I can find an image actually. So like what I'm about to bring up is potentially a body map where it shows the meridians. It'll have like the hips and stuff like that being shown. But I know you can take some stones like, magnetite or hematite, like an onyx, obsidian, black tourmaline, and then place those down by the soles of your feet. And then when you place those down by the soles of your feet, those crystals' electromagnetic fields, due to their grounding properties, will then sit there with the soles of your feet, which have meridians or chakras, and it'll help with the way that the energy is streaming in and out of the soles of your feet. So that is definitely a great strategy as well. And I like to do that for people when I'm doing Reiki sessions. They're laying on the table, put 2 of those type of stones, one underneath each foot while they're laying on the table. and it gives you assistance with helping direct that energy down and out through that system. I'm gonna try to find a picture if you want to continue to add anything.
Yeah, what was coming into mind was taking a shower, letting the water run over you. That really is a very grounding practice. Um, and I know, if I remember correctly, that something to do with the electron flow of the water and it rushing over your body, it just really helps you calm down. Sorry, my throat. And then what else? So we've talked about orgonite, grounding mats, grounding crystals. Oh yeah, crystals. One crystal that I love for grounding and was really good for energy work and pranic balancing would be the Moki marbles. I know they're really hard to get, and they're getting harder to get, and finding an actual pair of decent size and quality is getting increasingly difficult. But if you're able to find a pair, I highly encourage you to do so. Moki marbles and the grounding experiences I've had during meditation, I mean, they're just little round balls of hematite and sandstone in the perfect little circles. So they fit perfectly in your hand. And one thing I really liked doing was heating them up with my blowtorch and then just holding them and letting the energy sink into my body. You could really feel that, and having both masculine and the feminine energy and the stone when you have a pair, it really does harmonize yourself. Another good one for that would be Shiva lingams. Shiva lingams are great for grounding and great for meditation. Something else just popped into mind. It'll come to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good one right there. That's some, the Moki marbles have always fascinated me. I'm not exactly sure why, but
they're called shaman
definitely
stones, or they're considered shaman stones. But they've always been very fascinating to work with. Oh, damn it. Something about meditation. Being in meditation, holding the Moki marbles. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
I think it'll
come to me. It will come to me. But for as far as grounding, oh yeah, I touched upon it a little bit, but with tobacco, if you have the chance to do hopping, which is ceremonial grade snorting tobacco, that is extremely grounding. Even though it's not psychoactive, other than the nicotine in it, that will pull you into your senses. If you're not familiar with hape, it's a sacred tobacco medicine by the Pachamama tribe or around that area. I can't remember the fine details of it, but it's crushed or powder. It's turned into a powder. You have a special little tool. I can't remember what it's called, but you snort it up your nose, or someone blows it up your nose, and it makes you really focus and really centered and really grounded. And it's just a rush of sensation. It's not like psilocybin or anything. It's not psychedelic, but honestly, it gave me experiences that felt very psychedelic in nature. Have you ever had hape?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had hape. It's it is such a good flush for your sinus cavity as well as your sinus system as a whole. For me, I also feel like it is really good for bringing you back to the center of your hemispheres too. There's something about the intensity of it, or I should say like the medicinal impact in the way that it clears so quickly.
Yeah.
That I feel like it does bring like a a balancing act to the third eye, which is the hemispheres.
Yeah. That actually did pop into my mind is working with mudras, hand mudras, like when you see Buddha sitting and he's doing something like that or that. Mudras are great to work with. They really help you harmonize the energy within yourself, and depending on which mudra you're working with, it can either have a very grounding effect or a very uplifting effect. And oh, that's what I wanted to share. I have a mantra, and this is one of my mantras that I created for myself in the early stages of my journey, and it's very easy, very simple. It's very affirmative, and it goes as follows. I am what I am inside me because I speak the way I am. And it's just that. And saying that really helped me affirm myself. It helped me empower myself, and being an advocate for both myself and the spiritual connection that I have, but also being aware that how I vocalize, not necessarily what I'm vocalizing, but how I'm vocalizing, can really change the demeanor of what it is that I'm trying to enunciate. And it really taught me to be more careful about myself and my own words and what I'm projecting out into the world.
Yeah.
But it takes you back to yourself. I am what I am inside me. And you remember when you speak.
Good afternoon, Lunar Queen. Welcome in.
Hello.
Lunar Queen is a wonderful member of my Sacred Kingdom community. She is a single mother in Louisiana of 2 little kiddos.
Aw.
And she is in her first year with her first online crystal shop.
Yay.
You guys can always check her out anytime. Organicsessence.com. Let me put the website in there for you guys. And I was actually just thinking, like, we're talking about crystals. We're talking about an intentional purpose with the crystals.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of crystal bracelets you got going on for grounding that people can get from you?
Oh, for me, I thought you were going to ask what I was wearing. But as far as for me, I have, of course, my golden radionics line of jewelry, which is shungite, copper, silver, 24 karat gold, wire, and hematite magnets with neodymium magnetic glass. Those work really well for grounding. And I mostly just do the commissions for bracelets now and necklaces, but I'm capable of creating and sourcing a lot of great material. So anything that anyone would want, I could easily make and easily find. As far as like my wares, I've got one bracelet left, and it actually is a pretty grounding one. It's a black tourmaline with pyrite and bronzite. That one is going for pretty cheap if anyone's interested.
Very nice.
But I always recommend the radionics bracelets. They're really great, honestly. They help me a lot with my day-to-day pain. They've helped a lot of other people in my personal life and circles. And with that, I think we should get to the crystals. Are you ready for crystal talk?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is what I was very eager for. So there's tons of crystals and tons of ways to use crystals and many ways of categorizing crystals. The most basic way to categorize your crystals would be with their crystalline structure. And with the geometry of that, we are going to want to look at the cubic crystals. There's not too many cubic crystal structures or crystalline systems, but the ones that are readily available and easy to obtain would be pyrite for one, galena, galena, halite, and fluorite. And of course, the last one, which isn't really easy to get, but we'll talk about it, is diamonds. You wouldn't expect the diamond to be cubic, but there's a very powerful message with its cubic structure and its hardness, and we'll just hint to that. But so we'll look at the cubic crystals first. And with pyrite is an iron-based crystal, so it has a lot of grounding properties as is. And what varies the pyrite's crystalline structure is how much iron to arsenic is within its matrix or crystalline structure. Sorry, my bad. So I can't remember the exact science, but I believe the more arsenic there is in a pyrite, the the crystalline structure changes quite a bit. And I believe the more iron-based ones are the ones that are like the perfect cubes. If you want to pull up that image, if you can, there are the perfect pyrite cubes that are available. Those ones come from Spain. They're great. They're absolutely great to work with. Pyrite is considered an abundant stone, but in my experience, it's a very intense mental stone because it works with the magnetite in our heads. And they're starting to find that pyrite actually has gold in it, very small amounts of actual gold. So the fool's gold was kind of true, but it's just a great stone to work with to get that energy flowing and getting the mental flow. And the next one would be fluorite. So cubic fluorite comes in all the colors. Fluorite is the most colorful crystal in all of the crystal kingdom, but this one is colorless fluorite. And what's more important is the fact that it's cubic. It does come in a few different shapes, but cubic fluorite for this conversation is very important in the crystalline kingdom. Fluorite itself acts as a very intense, like, not just a filter, but also pulls in a lot of energy, and it restructures it into a more harmonious state. And that really makes sense with the cubic structure. I glossed over it, but I didn't really talk about it. But the cube is, in metaphysics, considered the grounding element. It's associated with Earth as far as sacred geometry goes. So the cube is very strong. It's one of the more stable stable shapes in geometry. And it's typically how or what you build your foundation on. And then we also have galena, a lead-based ore or mineral. And those ones come out pretty cubey. And that one's a very heavy grounding stone. That one, I would say, is more of a spiritual grounding stone. And we will talk about the difference between spiritual grounding and physical grounding. I just wanted to talk about the cubic crystals first. So the galena has the lead. And the lead is one of the base metals that's used in alchemy. They always talk about turning lead to gold. And actually, I'll just mention that really quick. CERN scientists, the particle collider, they were able to take lead for a fraction of a second and turn it into gold. So that's really cool. That alchemy was verified by the ancients through modern day technology. We turned lead to gold. It wasn't for very long and it cost a lot of money, but we did it. So maybe we'll do more in the future. So galena, lead, can be toxic, so be very mindful of that. But that one really helps you pull into the body. That one's diamond. But we'll save the diamond for last. But halite, the next one. Halite is a salt mineral, or I think it's called salt, but it's basically crystallized salt. The halite, being cubic, it really makes sense that salt would be cubic. It's very useful for us to regain our mineral balance, and it helps with electrolytes in our water. You have a headache, take some salt with water, or a little bit of salt in your water, and that should help with your headache. And the quality of the salt really can make a difference in your diet, so be mindful of that. But last but not least, we will talk about cubic. And this, like I said, is just the cubic crystalline structure. We have a lot more to talk about with other crystals. So with diamond being like the hardest organic substance, or not organic, the hardest known natural substance on the planet, I find that very interesting that it's associated with the cubic crystalline structure. And I feel like there's a spiritual message right there in front of our eyes. Be grounded in yourself. Be the hardest, most undefiable version of yourself, and you will shine bright like a diamond. And that really spoke to me as we were building up to this podcast. And that's something I really wanted to bring to the people's attention, was that these perfect little diamonds in their natural state, they just hold so much. I haven't really got to work with diamond in a crystal sense other than just seeing little tiny specks. But one day I will eventually get a natural cubic diamond. That will be fun. But going off of that topic, did you want to add anything before we head into the other crystals?
Yeah. Just a reminder of what we've gone through throughout this episode. and putting it with these crystals, so to say. Just kind of remembering, how our giving and receiving works, as well as our energy centers, our meridians, things like that, what grounding truly is from the metaphysical side. And then you bring in these crystals and you learn the properties of them and the frequencies that they carry. And then what you can do is you can then pair that with the knowledge of yourself that you know. So, if you're needing to receive more of something, then you can have that crystal in your left hand or worn on your left side, and then you'll be activating and drawing in properties from that crystal. And then if you're needing to release energy, ground, and just let go, then you can hold one of those crystals on the right side, and then that will help you with bringing that grounding effect. So just the reminder of that. And going back to the meridians real quick, and I actually found a picture for us. So when you just look real quickly here at these meridians next to the chakras, the meridians are basically in these placements that allow our current to flow in its organic and balanced nature. So with that being said, just to give you guys a little bit of a reference here, if you look at the groin or the navel hip areas, you can place any of these stones that our brother Yuuga just went over, and any other grounding stones that you can place them on those meridian centers. And then those meridian centers will act basically like, I don't know, it's almost like a game board. And then you place these crystals on different parts of the game board, and it's going to help initiate different parts of your energy or different parts of your being and your well-being. So you could put crystals on the hip and the groin area, and then have one on your root chakra as well. And then put 2 at the bottom of your feet. And if you want to go ahead and add your knees as well, then what you'd be doing is you'd be activating and stimulating those meridians more with those stones. And then the properties that stone carries would then be infused with that stimulation of the energy fields of your meridians. And then what that will do is it'll help the current and the circulation flow more properly. And then you'll be able to release and feel more lighter as well, helping you feel more grounded. And through that groundedness, you become lighter in your vibration, and therefore you're able to ascend more due to that groundedness. So I just wanted to share that because it kind of covered all of the subtopics in one, techniques, what it is, and how to use it with crystals. But yeah, is there any other wonderful crystals you want to cover?
Yes. I had them listed in 3 different categories. In spiritual, a few actually, but we'll condense it, figure it out. We have spiritual and physical grounding crystals, and then we have red and black crystals, and we also have metal bearing crystals. So one thing that I really wanted to say really quickly, even though amethyst is a very spiritual crystal, I would consider it a spiritual grounding crystal. And I say that because even though it's purple, it has a high vibration, it works with the crown chakra. I would say it's a spiritual grounding one because it pulls that spiritual energy into the crown because it has a form of iron in it. The iron inclusion is what makes the amethyst purple. And it's not something you can definitely notice with a magnet, but if you have a magnet and a giant piece of amethyst, you will feel a slight, not attraction or a repulsion, but the iron will interact with the magnet. And it's really cool to see what crystals will interact with your magnet. And some of it has to do with whatever's elements are inside that crystal's chemistry. So that is one spiritual grounding crystal. going back to the more more recognizable grounding crystals, one thing I forgot to mention on the cubic one was sphalerite. Sphalerite is actually a very spiritual grounding crystal. I've worked with it many times. I've had different pieces, and sphalerite looks metallic, but it's actually not a metal-based ore. If you could find a really nice piece of sphalerite, it's very kind of a dark hazel, almost brownish kind of color. Really hard to find that, but sphalerite was one of the first spiritual grounding crystals that showed me that you can still elevate while grounding, and that's one of the cool things with the spiritual grounding stones. Another one that comes to mind would be garnet. Garnet's red. I believe it's either garnet or ruby. I'm pretty sure it's garnet, but garnet was considered the stone of Buddha and a representation of Buddha's love, and how the garnet pulls love down to the root, and it's a good self-love stone. Another spiritual grounding one, Huebnerite. Now, a lot of people have heard of it, and it's not easy to get or find, but Huebnerite is a great crystal. It looks black. It has, I think it's tungstite or tungsten. It has some metal in it, but it looks shiny, and if you can find a really nice piece, you can backlight or put a backlight to it, and it glows red. I have a piece, but Huebnerite is good for grounding your soul back into your body, and that one's pretty heavy, like not just physically, but it has this heavy spiritual energy to it. Another spiritual grounding stone would be shungite, one of our favorites. Shungite works in so many ways, though. It's a very energy-filled stone. It has fullerenes and graphite and a lot of other things in it, depending on the quality of shungite. But that is one of the greatest spiritual grounding stones. I use it for my structured water. I use it for my radionics bracelets. There's quite a big list of spiritual grounding stones, but I just wanted to mention a few, just so you have a good idea of how the spiritual grounding can be applied. Now, the physical grounding stones one of the first ones that comes to mind would be tourmaline. Tourmaline has both aluminum and a form of iron in it. So I consider tourmaline a very good physical grounding stone. A lot of people say it's good for psychic shielding, but just based off the chemistry, because of the iron and the aluminum, I would say it's a good grounding stone for the physical body, not for psychic protection, just due to the fact that the iron would hold all that energy. And if you're wanting to push away the psychic energy, I would recommend tourmaline and quartz. The quartz kind of counteracts the pulling in, and it pushes the energy back out in a more harmonious way. So there's that physical grounding stone. We talked about the Moki marbles. That's a really good heavy grounding stone. Hematite, that works with our blood. The iron in the hematite interacts with the blood flow, and a lot of people will use hematite in their jewelry to help increase the blood flow. We talked about pyrite. Black. Obsidian. Obsidian would be great. Obsidian. Jet. Jet's actually not a crystal. It's actually decomposed ancient plant matter. I think it's trees. But jet is one of the cool ones. And that actually reminds me of another one that's not necessarily a mineral or a crystal, but I feel it's very grounding, would be amber. Amber itself is fossilized tree blood. Fossilized tree blood. And I've had some cool experiences with amber itself. One thing I like to do is I'll get a very cheap raw piece of amber. And it's said in ancient times that they would burn the amber to release a certain smell or fragrance. And it does have a very sweet, beautiful smell. But one thing that I did was I took the amber and I said, well, this is fossilized tree blood. I bet there's ancient oxygen in here. I burned it and I took in that fresh breath, and I really felt like I was connecting with ancient earth in that moment. I felt like I was breathing air that hadn't been breathed in millions of years. So if you have ever done that or haven't done that, I recommend doing the amber burn with a nice cheap piece of amber. But amber is great. It really does connect you to the earth. We talked about the Shivalingams.
Petrified wood.
Petrified wood, yes. I should have known that. We have a petrified forest here in Arizona. I haven't really had too many pieces of petrified wood, but it's gorgeous. It has so many different colors.
So there's also Apache tear, shaman stone,
Obsidian.
dragon stone. Yeah, there's so many out there, really, guys. And like, if you look at the way that the universe like works with chakras, colors, crystals, one of the biggest references that you guys can go by is by the color of it. Now,
Yeah.
color isn't going to always define every single thing about it, but typically, if it's a black stone or red stone, anything like those hues, dark brown, then it's going to be more of a earthy, grounded energy for your being. Like, the jaspers too. There's so many jaspers you can use.
There's so many different jaspers, but typically it's said that red jasper is the best for grounding, I believe. And here in Arizona, it's everywhere. You take a walk, you find little pieces of red jasper on the floor, walking by your feet, or right next to your feet. So if you really want a good grounding stone where you can just go find out on a walk, look for some red jasper.
Yeah.
Or what you could do, if you can actually get yourself a nice neodymium magnet, just take it on your walk. And you will find rocks that are attracted to your magnet, and that's the iron oxide or the magnetite in that stone. And just work with those little stones, place them on your body, work them with them in grids, and you will see a difference in how the magnetic stones react with your energy and just spiritual energy in general. Sarah's question is, what is petrified wood good for? It's not one I've personally worked with too much, but if memory serves right, petrified wood is good for ancestral connections, ancestral wounds, connecting to ancient earth and ancient knowledge and wisdom.
And then on the kind of like mind, body, soul level, petrified wood is good for bringing grounding energy, emotional balance. It helps with connecting to nature and feeling connected intuitively to the ancient wisdom of Earth. Spiritual awareness helps support your skeletal system and your skin and hair health and your overall well-being. So encourages growth and support during change. Oof, yeah, that's straight up grounding energy right there. Like, that reminds me of, it's like taking in the Divine Mother. Like, it's going to help you feel secure. It's going to help you feel like you have that rooted stability to be able to move through your alchemy, to be able to make change, to grow. So yeah, that's the kind of energy that I kind of get from petrified wood.
There's one crystal I'm actually wearing right now. I kind of showed it a little bit, but I wanted to showcase this one. It's one that's very near and dear to my heart. Not many people have access to it. It's not as hard to get as it was, but these are just little tumbled chips that are in a bracelet. But this is actually a piece of highly magnetic material called Isua stone, ISUA stone. It comes from Greenland along with Numite. It's not, I don't think it's found by Numite, but it's in the same area of Greenland where Numite is typically found. I'll just show that real quick. But yeah, the Isua stone, it has like actual raw iron in it, not magnetite, like actual bits of iron. This thing is very magnetic. It is the oldest, yes, the oldest piece of crustal earth that scientists have found to date. It's a more recent find, but Numite, or not Numite, Isua stone, being as old as it is, it's been around. It's super connected to the ancient energy, kind of like the petrified wood. But the Numite, or not Numite, I don't know why I keep saying Numite. The Isua stone, if you can get it, it's profound to work with. It really does work with the kundalini. It really pulls it up and helps you anchor in that energy from the spiritual. It is magnetic, obviously, so it has that cool factor. And just knowing that you're holding some of the oldest part of the earth is just mind-blowing.
Hmm. I've never heard of that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, Isua stone is one of the kind of hidden gems of the crystal world. But
Those are the best.
with that being said, I think the last thing on the list would be the metallic bearing crystal or metal bearing crystals. If you wanted to add anything.
And EMF protection as well.
Oh yeah, EMF protection. Did you want to talk about the EMF protection first?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay. So EMF protection. Do you want to go or me?
Go ahead.
Okay. So EMF protection. One we talked about already would be shungite. Shungite works very well for EMF protection. Tourmaline, specifically EMF. I know hematite interacts with the electromagnetic frequencies. It does help ground certain certain energies. I don't know if it works super well with EMF, but we do know that orgonite works very, very well with EMF, and a lot of orgonite makers will use shungite, broken pieces of shungite or shungite powder, and they'll use the metals as well. So the metals have that grounding component. But EMF protection is definitely something that needs to be more talked about and more remembered, as 5G and other technologies are blatantly blasting us with radiation all the time, constantly. Yeah, that's not really the focus of my radionics bracelets, but they do have EMF protection. I'm not sure what else to add, unless you can add more to the EMF list, because there's not too many crystals that have that property, if I remember correctly.
I believe pyrite does.
Oh yeah, pyrite reflex and deflex EMF energies. I think fluorite possibly might, because of its cubic structure. It may filter some of it, but I can't remember. I'd have to do some more research.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, for me, it's, I think shungite's probably like the most commonly heard one, because you hear about, the phone stickers, you hear about putting them on your Wi-Fi router. Shungite is just, it's so amazing too, especially once you get into shungite water, which I'm sure we might end up having a whole episode on that. But shungite water, when you think about that, since it has the metaphysical side of EMF protection, it's also good to drink and clear radiation out of your cellular system as well. And that's just a very, very powerful thing that shungite does when it comes to being introduced to the water system. And myself, I've been doing shungite water for about 6 years now. Yuuga's been doing it for years as well, and has even gone to the even further level of basically experimenting and crafting his own device. If you'd like to share a little bit of that, man, feel free.
Yeah. So I've been working on this project I've been calling Magna-Violet Clear Radionics, and that's just a long version of it. But it's really, you could just call it Magna-Violet. And Magna-Violet is structured shungite water. It's highly filtered, highly treated water. I used to do distilled water, but it's really wasteful as far as buying plastic jugs and filtering it. So I was a little more conscious, and I created, it's a little more tedious, but I use tap water. I actually use and start tap water, and I've documented it before on one of my more recent videos. But I took the tap water and I filter it through a reverse osmosis machine, and then I filter it through a graphite filter or graphene filter. And then after it goes through those two filters, it sits in 2 pounds of elite shungite, and it has a bunch of magnets with all different poles going all throughout. And when you work with that much shungite, with that much water, you actually change the molecular and the chemical side of the water. When I documented it with the tap water, it was like 660 ppm, and then I brought it all the way down to 60 ppm, which is quite a lot. Most of that was taken away with the reverse osmosis filter. I will answer that. Let me get my train of thought out. And the pH, that was important. The tap water was slightly above neutral. It was a little alkaline, not fully alkaline, but a little alkaline, and the reverse osmosis took the water and brought it to like 6.5 on the pH scale. So it was a little acidic. And then the shungite, even though the literature says shungite water is acidic by nature, my water went very close to being neutral. And I've always thought that shungite water was neutral. So I had the water reader, I was able to confirm it, and seeing alchemy real time in front of your eyes, changing the TDS, the electrical current, which I didn't talk about, but it is important, and the ppm, or the TDS, the EC, electrical current, and the pH, all three were drastically changed with the shungite and the other processes that I did. And you could physically feel the taste and the difference with this highly filtered, structured shungite water. People may make shungite water, but I don't really know of anyone doing structured shungite water, and it's a little bit different. When I first discovered this on accident, I had all the shungite that I needed, and I had this idea, shungite's super conductive, and I had this idea of placing magnets next to my water system. And I was using N52 neodymium magnets, strongest you can get. And the more the water sat next to the magnets, and when I froze it, the more energy would show up in the ice. I didn't know it was energy, but it kept getting cloudy in the center. And after some time, I fully found, and am going to publish a study soon, but I fully found what I've been calling radionics with an X, and the different stages of structured water. It's really fascinating. If you're curious, check out my YouTube channel for that, or check out my other Instagram profile, Magna-Violet Structured Water. But working with structured water and that form of alchemy really did teach me a lot about grounding and patience, and being aware of what I put out and what I put in. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll go on to the next topic. Oh, how do you keep your shungite clean? So the best way to keep it clean, when you first work with it, process it, make sure you're getting all the stones that are just black, no rust at all. You do not want that orange color. And then you're gonna wanna boil it. And I keep it in a filter, so it's staying clean. But so you want to boil it, you want to sun charge it. I didn't say that, but you want to sun charge your shungite. That will make a huge difference in its effectiveness. And just make sure you're not handling it too much if you're using it for your drinking water. But other than that, it's not hard to keep it clean. Just boil it, put some sunlight on it, and put it in a container. And make sure it has a filter so nothing's getting in, and the shungite is just putting extra minerals into the water and the extra energy.
Excellent. Oh, we got another question. What oils are best for?
Oils? I don't know what the oils.
You have to reiterate that question, Lunar Queen. Ooh, wow. Oh yeah, I also want to point out to everybody too that oh man, I just forgot what I was about to say.
You want to show the Sacred Light Retreat real quick and maybe get your brain reset? We did forget to show that.
Yeah, it is true. Good point. Good point. This will be a good time, you know.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys check out a little something here. But this is one of my retreats I have coming up. And this one's actually a pretty special one. It's going to be in Ohio coming up in July. And this is a holistic healing for veterans retreat. So this is for our active and our veterans of the military.
Attention veterans, your next mission healing and community in beautiful Loveland, Ohio. Imagine a place where nature's serenity meets powerful ancient healing practices. Welcome to the first ever Holistic Healing for Veterans Retreat, happening July 12th and 13th in Loveland, Ohio. This is not just any retreat. Hosted by Marcus Christolight of Sacred Light and co-hosted by former Marine Sergeant AJ Lardy. This 2-day outdoor camping experience is designed just for you. Alongside fellow Sacred community members Heather Lynn of Heart Alchemy Wellness, Lauren aka Peach, Katie Singing Eagle, and Niara, you'll dive deep into holistic shamanic level flow shops. Picture this, sound healing that calms your mind, shadow work that uncovers your true self, and subconscious reprogramming to help you rewire the brain from PTSD and trauma. All set in a beautiful, secluded, natural setting with a magical riverside. And it doesn't stop there. We'll provide clean, vibrant meals for all diets, ensuring you nourish your body as well as your spirit. Let's grow together as a community, bringing empowering healing to ourselves and our loved ones. Tickets are incredibly affordable. Just $33 for 1 day or $77 for the full 2 days. But remember, you must register first. Scan the QR code on the flyer or visit the site next to the code. Got questions? DM Marcus Christolight directly at 513-238-5580. This is your chance to find peace, connect with fellow veterans, and embark on a journey of profound healing. One love.
Did it come back to you?
First time ever. First time ever, we're going to be doing a holistic healing veterans retreat. So our veterans can finally be shown some alternative ways to healing, and also be shown that there are people out there that really think about them and care about them and are using their gifts and their skills to create spaces for them to have safe vulnerability, to move through their traumas, clear out their memories, and bring balance back to their being. And, this isn't just for veterans. This is for veterans to have healthier relationships with their loved ones, with their children, because it's very difficult for veterans to have healthy relationships with their family and even their children. And it's not, their fault. There's unconscious behaviors, unconscious patterns that develop because of such severe trauma and such severe PTSD that could be stored within the system. So we're going to be showing our veterans, kind of like a little bit of the teachings that we were talking about today with our aura and our energy field and how it works and how we store energies and how it creates disease and creates trauma that continues to develop in the patterns. And we're going to help them with their shadow work, subconscious reprogramming, and it's going to be really beautiful. Really beautiful. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I know. I kind of missed that one.
Yeah, so there was something else I was going to add too about the grounding, and that is like different practices. So meditation and yoga, there are specific poses, there are specific meditations that you can do that can help align you with grounding. And what's really cool with the technology we have nowadays is you can literally look up any frequency online and you can find grounding frequencies, root chakra frequencies, you can find Schumann resonance frequencies, as well as even crystal frequencies. There's people that are capturing crystal frequencies now and putting it through like YouTube channels and playing the vibration of the crystal.
I've seen those.
And it's a good one that you guys could check out is it's called the Crystal Wave. It's on YouTube, and they just have all sorts of different crystal vibrations. And I couldn't even believe we didn't even bring this up, but we talked about the root chakra, but to do even deeper grounding, which is where our ancestral patterns and ancestral connection comes from, is activate and ground into your Earth Star chakra. Your Earth Star chakra is your Earth center that is at the core of the Earth that connects you to having basically any type of foundation for your light being to be able to come into this physical realm. So it's like the root chakra on steroids, basically, and it anchors the rest of your whole entire system to the earth. So that Earth Star chakra, which you guys can find on YouTube, other places, you can do different practices to help clear that and ground into that as well. And these crystals that we went through, they're all going to help you connect with that Earth Star chakra. And I also feel like it's pretty appropriate too to bring up a little bit of that Middle Earth guardian energy. We got a brother that's on this live right now that has a connection to some guardian dragon-like energy, and the Earth Star chakra is one of those chakras where you can connect with very, very deep Earth beings. So dragons, the gnomes, the Fae that are in the Middle Earth, that type of energy.
The mole
Is there
people.
anything you would like to share about maybe dragon energy and what kind of grounding you've been able to achieve through dragon energy?
Yeah. For me, dragon energy is more transformational in my journey, but it's very multifaceted. One thing with dragons and dragon energy, easiest way to utilize dragon energy is following the dragon lines. And I believe, I had to double check, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure there's a dragon line that goes through Sedona, or at least a part of Arizona. And if you can find a ley line or meridian line, or dragon line, whatever you want to call it, if you can find one that's relatively close by to you and just try to connect with that energy, it really can make a big difference. It's like, I don't want to say it's where the layers of this reality to the spiritual reality are the thinnest, but I feel like it's a well of spiritual energy to come out and come through. The thing that dragons really taught me is to be strong and centered in myself. And they did eventually show me how to ground. A lot of that was through mantras and Qigong-like practices. But if I had to channel dragon information right now at this very damn second, which I am, then I would say that dragons want you to remember that the key to success and the key to remembering yourself is to remember where you came from, remember your past, and remember how far it took to get there, to get to where you are right now. And how that worked for me was I'd always questioned my birth, always questioned my life and my purpose. And when I found my purpose and found my true name, Yuuga, it's like I was shifted into a different lifetime. Even though this is still me and I've only been here for almost 31 years, that lesson right there, it really was the paradigm of one of the greatest experiences I could ever experience in this lifetime. And working with dragon energy really is not, no, working with dragon energy is really not as difficult as you would think. It really just takes a pure heart, an open mind, and being open to the visions that the dragons have to offer. Dragons, even though they are very primordial and ancient in this realm, they work through thoughts and emotions. So being mentally quick and mentally adept, that's the easiest way to work with dragons, but the best way to work with dragons is open your heart.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this just came to my mind. You can also think about your environments as well, like the ocean, go to the water,
Yeah.
the beach, being on the beach. Those are all grounding things as well. Those things will help you just really anchor more into the earth and soothe the being, ground and relax. Those type of things absolutely help for sure. If you think of essential oils like lavender, oh man, we didn't even talk about herbs or nothing. Well, this is more of the Crystal Gemstone podcast,
Yeah.
but I mean, since we're on the topic too, there's some really good like herbs, teas that you guys can use, like valerian root, kava, chamomile, and those are
Burdock root.
all, yeah, burdock root. Those are all excellent for grounding as well. Just to throw that in there for you guys.
Honest, might as well just say it, Shilajit. I don't know if you work with
Ooh,
Shilajit, but Shilajit is extremely potent, extremely
I
powerful.
love Shilajit. I got these Shilajit honey sticks like
Oh, I've
2
seen
months
those.
ago, and those were amazing in my coffee and tea.
Nice.
Someone at the festival over the weekend had some Shilajit gummies,
Oh, my mom has those.
and they had like burdock root and ginger and stuff infused in it as well. I actually have some Shilajit right here.
Hell yeah.
So if you guys see, it's just like a black sticky tar. It's definitely something that you want to handle consciously. You don't want to get it all over your clothes or like any of that stuff, that's for sure. But
Star.
it comes from the Himalayan mountains, and it's one of the most known ancient fulvic acid complexes that we have, and it's got what, like 95 of our vitamins and minerals or something like that.
It depends on what source you ask. Personally, I feel it has everything we need, 108 essential minerals, and it also has trace minerals or trace elements and unknown trace elements. But it
Yeah,
does
it's
have
amazing.
fulvic and humic acid, which is very rare to find both.
Yeah. Uh-oh, let's see what we got here. Okay. You're welcome, Christina. Glad you've
And
enjoyed that episode.
did you want to wrap it up with the metal bearing crystals?
Yep. Yeah, we can definitely wrap it up with that, and then I'll just close it out with a little bit of sound for us.
Okay. So, metal bearing crystals, this is kind of my forte. I've been collecting the metallic crystals and metal bearing crystals for quite some time. They're very rare, very elusive for the most part, if you are aware. But just the entry level ones we've talked about already. There's pyrite, galena, hematite. Those are the ones that come to mind, or Moki marbles too, but that's hematite with sandstone. And then we have the more elusive ones. We have pyrojarite, which is a silver-bearing ore, one of my favorites to work with. That one has a lot of elusive kind of... The way it pulls in energy it's so unique. If you can get a piece of pyrojarite, however you say it, that one will change your spiritual game quite a bit. Then there's the Humanite we've talked about. There's Ilvite, and I'll just say my two favorites. My two favorites would be Carolite and what was I gonna say? Carolite and I guess I forgot. Whatever. The Carolite. Carolite is a very rare cobalt-bearing mineral from the Congo, or at least my piece is from the Congo. There's one other location, I believe it's Bolivia, that has the Carolite. But Carolite, it looks like a little golden pyramid in its best natural form. Carolite, like I said, it has the cobalt, and being a natural little pyramid of golden energy, I feel that one is one of the best ones on the earth, due to the fact that it's like a beacon of crystallized light, and because of its shape, it's shooting that energy up while also attracting things from the bottom. Carolite has shown me that it doesn't matter how bright your light is, it just matters that it's there and that you're working with your light. It's one that teaches you compassion. It's one that really showed me not to be too critical or too hard on myself, and to just take my time, but also take up space. And the last one I will talk about, because there's so many more to talk about, but the last metal bearing crystal I will talk about, which everyone should know, that little one, that little guy in the center right here, is a Gibeon iron meteorite. Iron meteorites specifically. Iron meteorites carry cosmic history and knowledge. They aren't from our world. They're probably a lot older depending on where it's from. But iron meteorites, they're like a slight reminder of this is familiar because of the iron and the nickel inside of it, but it's not. It's something a little different. And working with the meteorites, if you really want an Ascension stone, get yourself an iron meteorite. My favorite would be the Semchain Palisite meteorite. That has olivine in it. But working with iron meteorites will drastically give you those psychic downloads that a lot of people want. It helps you ground yourself very heavily, but it also works as a both spiritual and a physical grounding stone. Working with the different types of meteorites that there are available, a lot of them, or I should say, they really are very humbling and they're very mysterious. We cannot trace where they originally came from. We have ideas. I know most meteorites that fall to the earth are from, I can't remember what it's called, the something belt. It's not the Kepler belt. There's a belt around our solar system and it's filled with asteroids, and those asteroids eventually come to Earth and become meteorites. And the ones that have reached the Earth, there's so many. There's so many. But yeah, working with iron meteorites, best way to get the spiritual downloads, and kundalini too. So I'll leave it at that. You want to add any more? Feel free.
Yeah, I think that's a good place, honestly. We've covered so many at this point that
Yeah.
there's just so many for people to experience and journey with, for sure. So with that being said, I feel like it's a great place to go ahead and close out. And for everybody out there, just if you wish, just take a moment, take a couple breaths, just process and be still, and just allow this information to flow as we close out. And with that being said, I am Marcus Christolight. You guys can find me with the link down below, down in the ticker, as well as down in the description, listen.to/sacredlight33. You can book one-on-one services with me, as well as sign up for retreats, access my reishi coffee, and much more. And where can they find you, brother?
Right now I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm going to be making a Facebook account really soon. I just got to organize some stuff off my phone and figure out how I want to navigate Facebook again. I haven't been on it for years, but I will be on Facebook soon, so take a kind reminder for that one.
Yeah. And then you guys can tap into his link tree down below in the ticker, as well as down in the description. And you guys can also get those wonderful bracelets from him as well. But with that being said, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for your comments. And feel free to comment during the replay if you watch this replay. And we'll see you guys soon. Wholeness of balanced love.
You need to hear this if you're a spiritual seeker looking for transformation. Imagine 3 days of cosmic alignment where mind, body, and spirit converge in the divine vortex of Sedona. From August 6th to 9th, join us for the Lionsgate 8/8 Retreat, a journey into the heart of healing and self-empowerment. Led by Sacred Kingdom's own Marcus Christolight Robbins, alongside shamanic energy practitioners Heather Lynn, Rebecca Jones, and Sam, this retreat offers a unique blend of holistic flow shops, nature exploration, and communal connection. Picture yourself diving into various healing modalities, each session designed to peel back layers and reveal your true self. From sunrise yoga to sunset meditations, every moment is crafted to align your mind, body, and emotions. And it's not just about the workshops. Explore the mystical vortexes of Sedona with guided hikes, and enjoy delicious vegetarian and vegan meals, all while camping under the stars. This is more than a retreat. It's a chance to be part of a conscious community, a space where vulnerability is welcomed and transformation is inevitable. Experience the synergy of the Lionsgate energy with Sedona's powerful vortexes. Feel the magic, embrace the journey, and step into a new level of self-awareness. Don't miss out on this cosmic event. Book your spot now by scanning the QR code or text Marcus Christolight at 513-238-5580 with any questions. Transform, connect, and unleash your inner lion. Discover the magic of Sedona's Lionsgate 8/8 retreat. Your journey to self-discovery starts here.